Hello everyone and welcome back to Rediscovering Jesus. My name is Vitalis Asala. Rediscovering Jesus is a course that will, with the purpose of bringing Jesus to you and you to Jesus so that you can bring Jesus to your neighbor and your neighbor to Jesus. Now, I say this every time so that you can know why we are here. And now, saying that bring Jesus to your neighbor or bringing Jesus to you, does that mean that Jesus is just an object that we should bring to someone? No, it does not mean that. But Jesus needs to be introduced to someone. Like John the Baptist himself came and introduced Jesus to the world. Now, when a king is to come, don't we introduce the king to the public, even though they know that this is the king? Such as in the United States, when the president goes somewhere and he's about to give a public, discourse, a public speech, they just don't throw him out there like that. But someone comes and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America." So that's why I'm saying this course is to bring Jesus to you and you to Jesus. Now, am I bringing you to Jesus? Am I introducing you to Jesus because Jesus does not know you? No. I'm saying it because when you get Jesus, let's suppose that you don't know Jesus. Through this course, I hope that you know Jesus. Now, let's suppose that you know Jesus. Jesus knows you too. Whether you know him or not, he knows you. Now, when I explain exactly his mission to you, my goal is to have you accept him. And now, if you accept him, that means I have introduced you to Jesus also. That's how it goes. Now you bring the same knowledge, the same enlightenment to someone else. And that's how it goes on and on. I hope you get it. So this is the second video on this fifth lecture. I guess this is the fifth or fourth lecture. So if you haven't watched the first videos, please go there and watch again. I had to insist on these things so that you know what's going on here. Last video recap. What did we say during the first video of this lecture? We said that everyone who comes face to face with Jesus will feel his heavenly influence. When Nicodemus came to Jesus, that was the point of, or the focus of the last video. When Nicodemus came to Jesus, he felt himself timid in front of Jesus. He felt this, kingly bearing that was showing forth from Jesus, and he was intimidated. So everyone who comes in contact with Jesus will feel that same influence. It's not a negative influence, it's not a debasing influence, but it's an uplifting influence. It's a positive, it's a reviving influence that we feel. So I hope every one of us seeks the presence of Christ every day so that we can be renewed and revived by that influence of Christ. John the Baptist had an influence much greater than that of the priests and rulers. These would have flocked behind him had he announced that he was the Christ. You remember that when John the Baptist came, even learned people and influential, wealthy people like Nicodemus, they listened to him with, interest. Even King Herod, who put him to death, listened and enjoyed actually listening to John the Baptist. So John the Baptist, after about 400 years of no prophet in Israel, came with the power and influence of Elijah, and he preached integrity with integrity. He preached integrity and he preached it with integrity. He did not contaminate his character with, the deregulation of the nation at the time. So everyone was ready to worship him as the Christ. He just needed to say, "Okay, I'm the Christ," so that people would come to him. Now you will tell me, why would people come to him when the Christ himself came and not many went to him? The reason this would be is that Satan was always, and he is always ready to uplift someone who is deceiving the nations. So Satan would have aroused people, the leaders, to come after John the Baptist as the Christ. Because John the Baptist was a man like you and I. He had his weaknesses. He had his pride. He could have said, you know what, I'm going to take this. They give it to me, I'm going to take it. And he would have, put a mar. He would have put a stain or a dent on the work of Christ. But he did not do that, and we'll see. And now the crowd about him lessened daily while Christ's fellowship grew. So he was there. John the Baptist was there influentially preaching, and people came to him. But when he introduced people to Christ and Christ to the people, they started following Jesus more and more, and his crowd, the crowd of John the Baptist, decreased more and more. So it was inversely proportional. As the crowd that followed Jesus grew, the crowd that followed John decreased. John's disciples came to him with their grievances, because this is natural, humanly speaking, that you have your teacher and everyone is coming to him. You are the disciple of that teacher, of that master, and you have the glory, the honor that I am his disciple. And now everyone is going to the new teacher. That kind of touches your heart, right? John 3:26 report this. And they came to John, his disciples, and said to him, Rabbi, he who was with you beyond the Jordan, to whom you have testified, behold, he is baptizing, and all are coming to him. So they told him, you see, this guy is taking away all our disciples, now he's baptizing also. John was a human like us. He could have shared the disaffection of his disciples, but he did not. He gave an uncontaminated response to his disciples. They came to him with a complaint, and they expected him to do something about it. Maybe to just get out there and tell people, hey, you know what? I am your teacher. You need to follow me. But John said something very important. John 3:27-30. John answered and said, a man can receive nothing unless it has been given to him from heaven. You yourselves bear me witness that I said, I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him. He who has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Therefore, this joy of mine is fulfilled. He must increase, but I must decrease. This is awesome. And by the way, I apologize for the background noise. This is being recorded at home, and my children are at home, so they cry, they play, and that shows that we are natural. We are humans, right? I'm not doing this in a very powerful studio. It's just because I love God and I gotta share the knowledge of Christ with you guys. So please bear with me. So this is John the Baptist. He's telling them, hey guys, I understand your problem, but hey, didn't I tell you beforehand that I'm not the Christ, and that he who is coming after me is better than I? So guys, just cut it short. Do not let the devil tempt you. Let him. He is coming from heaven. I am coming from earth. So please let him increase so that I can decrease. And by the way, when the mission of Jesus became powerful and established, John withdrew from public Notice. Now, they caught him when he spoke to Herod, because Herod loved to listen to him, to hear him. So he invited him to the palace, oftentimes. So that's in one of his appearances. That's when he told him, hey, you should not take your brother's wife. That's when he was caught and put in prison. But he withdrew so that the fame of Christ can increase. This was a man of, principle, a man of scruples. He knew why he was there. He was just the herald of the Christ. He was not the Christ himself. This is what we should do. John the Baptist says, I'm not the Christ. I'm not worthy. And the Christ himself, Jesus says, I delight in your will, oh my God. He always did everything according to the will of his Father. What does this tell us? This tells us that every person who has their feet on the ground of earth should surrender themselves to the power of heaven. Whether you are Jesus or John the Baptist, you should know that your will is not what you should do, but the will of He who is lofty in heaven. Jesus came from heaven, but he surrendered himself to the power of heaven, to the authority of heaven, to the will of heaven. We should do the same. Then, if we do, we will get to heaven. He rose to self-abnegation and desired to elevate all thoughts to the higher power, which is Christ. That's what we should do also. Those that are called of God give up self and display love for Christ and for others. That was the whole mission of Christ, to deny himself so that we can deny ourselves and so that we can gain self in him, so that he can serve others and so that we can serve others. It's not about serving myself and having others serve me. That's why he, being the Prince of Heaven, came on earth to serve his creatures. John the Baptist taught us a wonderful lesson, and we need to follow after his footsteps, even the footsteps of Christ. And John 1:29 says this: He who has the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. Therefore, this joy is mine. This joy of mine is fulfilled. So John the Baptist was saying that I am just a friend here, and I am happy to hear the bridegroom because he has received his bride, which is the church, which is you, which is me, which is us. So I should not step in the way. When you prepare the way of the bridegroom, and the bridegroom comes and receives the bride, you do not step in the way and say, hey, it's me first. I need to speak. I need to do this. You guys need to listen to me. No, you step aside and you applaud and you woo, and you rejoice and you herald them and you herald them. That's how it works. Isaiah 57:15. For thus says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place with him who has a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. That has always been, that is, and that will always be God's way of doing business. He is with those who humble themselves, for God resists the proud and accepts the humble. John 5:30 says this: I can of myself do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I do not seek my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me. Jesus is the one speaking here, because he did not do anything to show off. He did not do anything to show that he is this, but he did everything to show that the Father is this. Hebrews 1:9, you have loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. This is speaking to Jesus. So if we follow in the footsteps of John and in the footsteps of Jesus, we will be elevated by God. The light of heaven can only fill us. It can only fill us up as we show a willingness to be emptied of self. Because God does not like boastful people. He does not like a boastful heart. He works with a humble heart. He works with a heart that is empty, ready to be filled by the Spirit of God. That is the heart that rejoices God. Colossians 2:9 and 10 say, for in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in him, who is the head of all principality and power. I told you in one video that, and I've been telling you throughout video that Jesus was not a lesser God when he was on earth. He was still God. This is Jesus. This is Paul telling us that in Jesus dwelled, the fullness of the Godhead. That means God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit were all in Jesus. But he did not use this to, show off. He still surrendered himself because he was in the flesh, and he surrendered himself to the power of heaven. Let's read together John 3:33 and see what the Bible tells us there. And there goes my family again. That's my 3-year-old who is always screaming, crying, complaining. That's what they do. So John 3:33, he who has received his testimony has certified that God is true. When we receive the testimony of Christ, we will know that God is true. The same report of Jesus' success John received also went up to the rulers. These determined to put an end to it. Because Jesus was being successful. Every day, the crowd that was following him was growing. In the beginning, it was difficult. And then, as they saw the miracles, as they hear the words of the man, they perceived that this man was unique. And they followed him. Some of them followed just to pry on his miracles. Some of them followed to receive, the sight of heaven, to receive the salvation of heaven. So the same report went to the rulers, and the rulers decided to put an end to it. Jesus felt that the Jews would excite division between his work and John the Baptist, and he withdrew to Galilee for a season for the storm to pass. He knew that people would, because he was in Judea, and John the Baptist was in Judea, and Jesus was in Galilee. And he came to be baptized in Judea, and he was led in the wilderness. And this dissension came, that the disciples of John, this is the devil, arousing them to jealousy. The same jealousy he manifested in heaven. He came with it on earth. So Jesus left so that his fame will not be, will not cause any clash, any schism in Judea. So he went to Galilee so that this can subside. When I look at this man, before I read the paragraph, when I look at this man, this is just a picture. I'm not sure this was Jesus. Well, this was not Jesus for sure. But when I look at the character of Jesus, I know that this man was God. And I know that this man really loves me. And I know that this God really loves me. If God can come down on earth and live so poorly, this must have been God. This must have been love. The danger that was looming over the disciples of John was great as they were inclined to fix their sight on the Master, forgetting that he too was just an instrument used by God and for God's purpose. So let's not look at a man. As humans, as men and women, we come to the field of God, to the work of God, and we do our part. When our part is ended, we pass on the baton to someone else so that they can run with the task. Let's not forget that. You are not special. You are dependable. You are not, indispensable. I am not special. I am not indispensable. Jesus said when we have done everything, we should call ourselves unprofitable slaves. So please, know that if you do your part, if anyone is doing their part, when that is ended, someone else will take over. But God is eternal, and He's all in all. God has a work for each one of us. When our work on earth is done, others will be brought into the field. That's what I just said. As Jesus and his disciples journeyed to Galilee, he is weary in the land of the Samaritans and sits at Jacob's well. And this is where we are going to stop, and this is where we are going to start next time. I am asking you to share this video, to like it, and to comment so that we can all grow the kingdom of God together. The Lord bless you and keep you. I'm Vitalis Esala. Meet you in the next video. Bye now.